with Brownells here, back on the floor at the 2022 SHOT Show in the Elftmann booth. So I have Art here. He's going to take us through some of their new products.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to go through the new triggers, the different things we did for this year, and just some new advancements that we've made, and show you why we 100% feel that we make the best trigger in the world. And we'll show you what this is all about. Okay, so the first thing that we've done this year is, if you notice, like, we have normal trigger pins like this right here, okay, where you just have your bushings they're just bored straight through, and the trigger pins go in, and this is how you hold your trigger in, right? So you put the pins through, and then you use the 2 set screws to tighten it in. Well, the tighter that a trigger is held in the gun, the more dependable it is, the better it works, okay? It's more crisp feeling and everything. So what we did to do this is, I got the US patent on this. We threaded the bushings, because some people put pins through that are threaded, but that's not sucking the trigger into the gun, okay? So these are bushings that are threaded now. And what this does is allows us to put 4 screws from the outside, plus the 2 set screws from the bottom, so our trigger has 6 points of contact that are holding it in. So this is the tightest way you could possibly put a trigger in your gun. The tighter it is in the gun, the better the thing, the more dependable it is, the crisper it feels, it just works better. So that's our first little advancement, is the new, we call it the Pro Trigger. All of our triggers hold regular bushings, and they can all be upgraded to Pro Trigger bushings. It's the same price too, if they want them either way. Okay?
Yeah, so if you're following our channel, we've already done installation videos on these and product spotlights, so
right, you guys do good ones too.
Yeah, so you should y'all out there should be familiar with this one already.
Now I'll show you the next thing that we did, okay? So this here knob, it's an adjustment knob on the back right now. So we were asked to make this for SEAL teams years ago, 4 years ago, and they've been shooting them for years. We finally were allowed to release it, okay? And what they wanted was a trigger adjustment that they could do without tools while it was in the gun, okay? And so I left a slot here so that they could at least still use the tool if they want, but you can turn it by hand. And so there's some big reasons for this, okay? If you line this edge up with the top of the spring, you're a 3-pound pull, okay? And if you turn it all the way down, it's 1/2 inch increments, okay? So it snaps into 1/2 inch half turns, which are a 1/2 pound a piece, okay? Now, if you turn it all the way down, it's 5 pounds a pull. If you bring it out all the way, it is 3 pounds, okay? But here's what's cool. If somehow this came out, it's still at 2 3/4 of a pound, it will still fire. If you put it all the way down, it doesn't crush the spring, because some guys with the set screws turn it in so tight, they go, my trigger won't pull, because they crush the spring on the bottom.
Right.
Well, this eliminates that. And we've never had one come out, because it's really quite strong, that spring, okay? So this is fully adjustable from 3 to 5 pounds, and there's really no way to make it fail. So that was another thing that we did to the trigger. Okay, now let me try to find my tool, my fancy tool. All right. So now I'll show you what's inside of an Elf trigger. All right, so that's a threaded bushing. It can go in any of our triggers. All right, pull this thing apart. All right, there's a little disc in here you don't want to lose. Okay, so that's the adjustment. It works very well, and we just have had no issues with it. Okay, now we wanted our trigger. They test triggers when you put your gun together, or when you're putting an upgraded trigger inside of a stock gun. You're going from 9 to 11 pounds or so down to 3. Well, if you take almost every single aftermarket drop-in trigger and do the drop test from 4 feet, it will fire off. I did not want it to do that. So what I did was, I made this hollow right here, and I made a big disconnect right here so that it counterbalances. Now, all the other triggers, when you take and put them like this and you let them go, they're heavy to this side and they want to fire. So when they hit, they go to fire, okay? So what I did is I counterbalanced out the trigger. And so what this does is, by it being counterbalanced, I've beat these on the ground until I've bent buffer tubes, and it still does not misfire, okay? And so it does something else too. So that balances out. So now, even with it balanced out, if somehow you got it to fire, we have the first sear we fire from with a huge clean out for the dirt to get it clean from the sear. The second is a safety sear, okay? So what happens is, it catches the second sear and stops the hammer at 85% of the swing. This is the only AR-15 trigger on the market that is completely drop safe. You cannot make this fire off. So that's another advancement. The next thing we did is, one, we're full roller bearings. I hold patents on that too. And my disconnector. So the disconnector is a puzzle shape where everybody else's disconnector is 1/8 inch wide. They cut a slot in the trigger and they put a pin through it. Well, we did it with a puzzle piece, and I got the U.S. patent on that too. And this is a much stronger way to go. You can't wear it out. We don't wear these things out at all. And so by being double wide, it's way more than just twice as strong. It's just pretty much bomb proof, okay? So now another thing we did is we didn't want the hammer to strike the disconnect. And almost every single trigger out there, when their hammer comes back, hang on. When their hammer comes back, okay, it strikes, your pivot point is here, it strikes the top of the disconnect and it moves the trigger forward, causing trigger slap, okay? So what we did was we made a half moon shape here and a half moon shape on the hammer. And what that does is when that comes together, it allows it to not hit the disconnector on the top or the bottom of it, so it never strikes the disconnector. It hits dead on the center of the pivot point, eliminating trigger slap. So it has no trigger slap. So the basis of this trigger is you have the half moon shape, eliminate trigger slap. We're hollow to counterbalance between the big disconnector and that, it counterbalances out our trigger, full roller bearings, and this disconnector is less pieces, much more heavy duty. The hammer itself, and our sears on the hammer go in way further so that you have more time to catch and reset, because the whole game of a trigger is to reset the trigger. That's what makes it dependable or not. And so this has more time because we go in further than any other trigger does. And so that's just basics, that's the basics of it. Now to assemble it, I take this little disc, we put it in here. We take the little spring, and you can also get all different size springs if you want to get higher trigger pulls or anything like that. So you set the trigger in from the bottom, so it's really easy to take it apart, clean it. So what you guys are filming me, this probably won't be so easy, right? That goes in like that. Now, this is a double torsion spring. Normally there's one roll of springs on each side called a double torsion spring. So we hold the US patent on this too. This is rolled over itself again called a double torsion spring. So this is something that we do ourselves. And the only problem is we have to hand roll every spring. We can't buy them from anybody. So now we take this spring, we set it over the hammer, we take it, put it inside the housing, push it down a little bit, take your bushing, set it in there, and that trigger's ready to fire.
So that's easy enough. And
that's the most advanced trigger in the world.
And it seems like a lot of other manufacturers drop-in triggers don't really lend themselves to user maintenance.
You know, they basically, a lot of them just copy each other, it seems like.
Right.
They're a lot alike, all of them, except for that thing. That's pretty different. And it's just the simplest way I can make all those things happen. Yeah. I tell people I don't invent anything. I just make it as simple as I can until it works the best. Excellent. But that's it, man. That's the new AR-15 trigger. That's our match trigger.
If you're a fan of the channel at all and you've seen any of my personal firearms on there, my personal AR-15s, every one of mine you've seen has an Elftmann trigger in it. And
love that.
All of this right here is exactly why. So
it's great, yeah. I really appreciate you guys.
I appreciate you running through it.
Hey, no problem. Anytime, guys.
But we're gonna go chase down some other booths here at the 2022 SHOT Show.
Thank you guys for your time.